This is Danny Baggish, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome along to episode number 27 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Well, what an absolutely action-packed show we have got for you this evening. We've got a full show, all the usual stuff that we bring to you. Loads to talk about, loads going on in the world of darts at the moment. News, competitions, Q School obviously has been a massive thing over the last couple of weeks. So we'll dive straight into that. Loads to chat about, Premier League updates and all the rest. But before we do that, let's introduce you to the team. Here he is, the man himself, the brand, Mr. Josh Gorton. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad, thank you, John. How are you, mate?
I'm good. So we're right at the start of the year, Josh, but I imagine there's plenty for you to be keeping your eye on at this stage.
Absolutely. You referred to it just a minute ago there, John. We had Q School, which was a major event. It always is, but I think even more so given some of the names involved. And we're now gearing up for the start of the ranking season with the Super Series and then the UK Open to follow. So plenty to get our teeth into. And
have you been getting on? I know you've been reporting on the cricket as well over in India.
Yeah, it's been really good fun. I mean, I did the first test. The second test didn't go so well, and we've started pretty hopelessly in the third. So I think they should get me back, really, because I'm a lucky mascot.
So every time we meet, Josh, we seem to add another string to your bow. We obviously, we all know about your darting prowess. We spoke in the last podcast about how you'd be involved with Sky and the test series in India. But on our WhatsApp group the other day, you happened to mention to us that you've been reporting on the Netball League.
I have indeed. I had a bit of experience doing the netball reporting in, I think, 2019 at the World Cup. But it was my first taste of netball action for about 18 months. It was good fun, to be fair. It was a good standard games, and it stopped me watching Arsenal lose to Man City, which is always a positive.
Yeah, netball seems to be one of those really emerging sports, the emerging women's sports. I know, obviously, netball's been around for ages, but it seems the broadcasters and the sponsors are really sort of heavily getting involved in netball now, Josh. With the, I think is it the Premier League or the Super League's been around for quite a while now.
Yeah, and I think this season Sky have committed to broadcasting every single game, either live on Sky Sports or free stream on YouTube. So it's unprecedented coverage for the women's game, which is obviously a positive.
Excellent. Well, if we ever did a netball podcast, I'm sure the next host that I'm going to introduce you to would be heavily involved. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Pray silence for its Statsman and Mr. Neil Connor. Good evening, Neil.
Hello, John. How are you?
I am good. What you been up to, buddy? Anything exciting?
Not really. Not much we can really do at the moment. So it's work and then trying to catch a break from work. I'm trying to get fit, but every time I seem to go for a run, I end up injured. So struggling a bit with that.
How is that calf injury?
It's sore today, I have to say. So yeah, every time I think I've made some progress, I hit a stumbling block. But yeah, all good, not too bad.
But on a positive note, Neil, we've had some good news coming through with regards to vaccines and the possible sort of slow easing of lockdown.
Yeah, I think that's probably the news that everybody wanted to hear. I think the vaccine program seems to be going better than probably expected. So it's good news for those, particularly those who are struggling. So hopefully not only will it enable life to go back to normal, but it will also help save lives and keep people healthy. So fingers crossed we don't hit any more hurdles. Because it's been a long time, and let's hope for a positive outlook.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Right then, gents, we're gathered here today, obviously to discuss the darts. We've already sort of mentioned Q School, just going through the agenda for the show. Obviously, we'll have a lot to discuss on that. We've also got an interview coming up with one of the big players from the UK Q School. We've got an Order of Merit winner that Josh managed to track down and interview. So we'll talk on that a little bit later. We've got Super Series, UK Open to discuss, Premier League update. As I mentioned earlier, we've now got our final player announced announced, and we might even update you on some of the odds with Neil's odds section. What are the odds? A few news stories. We've had some questions come into the show as well, which the panel will attempt to answer. However, before we do any of that, I really feel we need to deal with the elephant in the room. And now then, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, regular listeners will know that myself and Neil and Josh, we play for our local cricket team. Hoddesdon Cricket Club. Shout out to Hoddesdon Cricket Club. And a big shout out to Ash as well, Ash Leet, who does a lot of the social media. Ash has produced a series of interviews that have gone out on social media over the last couple of weeks in the build-up to the new season, which with the easing of lockdown, we're all looking forward to. And Ash has been doing some Meet the Player interviews, and he's also been doing some interviews with players where they name their fantasy 11 or their favourite 11 of players that they've played with at their level. And we've seen some really good ones on there. And yesterday, there was an announcement that we were going to get to see Josh Gorton's fantasy 11 produced, the shoddy fantasy 11, as we like to call it, the lads that play in the sort of in and around the 4th and 15. We're not good enough for first team cricket, but in and around the 4th and the 15, we've got our own little group, our little shoddy group that was been going strong for 5, 6, 7 years now. And Josh named his fantasy shoddy team, and it went live on the Twitter feed this morning. And imagine my surprise, listeners, when I started at the top of the list and slowly made my way down to the bottom. And my name wasn't in the 11, but there was a 12th man named at the bottom of the list. Now, normally with a fantasy 11, you don't get the chance to select a 12th man, but Josh obviously had something on his conscience and wanted to name a 12th man. That 12th man was not me, ladies and gentlemen. That was somebody else. Now, I'm not going to start naming names because that wouldn't be fair to the players that Josh has picked for his fantasy 11/12. Basically, his favourite cricketers that he's played with at the club over the years. But not only did I not make the first 11, Neil, I didn't make 12th man either. We'll come to Josh in just a moment. But, Neil, can I get your instant reaction to that news?
Well, firstly, I think it's a disgrace.
Yes.
And I couldn't believe it when I saw that today. I did question Josh on it, and he was talking about we did need someone to help bring on the drinks. So he was trying to find a place for you.
And that was Josh's own words, was it?
It was.
That does not surprise me at all. Josh, you and I go way back. We've been playing cricket together for a number of years. And yet you couldn't find room for me in your fantasy shoddy tier. I'm going to give you the opportunity to defend yourself now. I will say, however, that whatever you say will make no difference whatsoever. Our friendship is over, but off you go.
This is one of the few times I'm grateful for lockdown. I've got to say. Well, to be fair, John, I was asked by Ash, like I say, to pick my best 11 from when I was captain. So the 3-year period between 2016 and 2018. And I took it quite seriously. I did a lot of looking at the stats and, how many appearances people made, whatever. In those 3 years I was captain, unfortunately, and this is no slant on you because we know you work with your band at Roundabout Zoo and also your work at Essendon, but you did only play 6 games in my tenure. And all my 11 played at least, I think, 15 or 16 games. So I went overall, I felt I played it safe and went for the most reliable in terms of appearances and also contributions.
So you're unreliable, John, as well?
Well, not unreliable.
Listen, if I was to look past that and say, okay, I understand your reasons for the 11. Again, not naming names because it's not very fair, but the 12th man that you picked, how many games has he played under your captaincy, Josh?
12.
He's played 12 games for you under your captaincy.
Yes.
And how many games have I played for you under your captaincy?
6.
So it's a 50% less.
Yeah.
Okay. And of those games that I didn't play in because I happen to be at work, because I work very early in the mornings and don't sometimes finish till 2:00 in the afternoon, so I can't make the start of a game. How many of those games do you think I turned up to, not in a playing capacity, but to watch, support the team, umpire, score, perhaps help with teas and that kind of thing? How many of those games do you think I actually attended, Josh?
Oh, plenty, John. There's no doubt in that. But I couldn't put supporter of the team in there. It was purely a playing.
I have to back John up on him coming to watch games because I remember one particular occasion where he turned up at Datchworth to watch us play, and I remember vividly walking out. I was fielding by the boundary, and you were bowling at the time, Josh. And I can't repeat what John said to me, but he wanted me to get you off because things weren't going particularly well. Remember that one?
I did get 3 wickets though when I came back on.
And it always comes back to Josh's accolades, doesn't it? I've said time and time again that in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, shoddy is not just about winning trophies, particularly at the moment because we haven't won one in a while, but it's an ethos, it's a religion, it's an ethic, it's a code, where it's a
movement.
It's a brotherhood and a sisterhood that we all live by. And yet I have been cast asunder by Josh and excluded. So if you get the chance, folks, pop onto Twitter, check out the Hoddesdon Cricket Club Twitter account. You can check out Josh's Fantasy 11/12. But you will notice that I'm not in it, and unfortunately, it has deeply affected our friendship. No fault of my own; it's Josh's doing. But if Josh is happy with that, and if he can sleep tonight, then so be it. Josh, any final words on that?
Well, I've got to say, I've had about 8 messages from former players. Of not only yourselves, John. I just wish I had this amount of availability when I was skipper in terms of a selection dilemma. I looked up and I had 76 players, and you know what I'm like. In all seriousness, I never want to offend anyone. So the thought of having to exclude 65 players who I did pick on a Saturday, it gave me a couple of dilemmas. And the 12th man was because he was originally in the side and I'd forgotten a player. So then I didn't want to leave them out. So in the end, I could have named a squad, but it got a little bit ridiculous by the end. But no, I feel suitably guilty now, John.
Good. That was the intention. Anyway, listen, let's move it on. However, just a quick note, Neil challenged Josh this evening. Make sure you hammer him, okay?
Will do.
Good. Okay, yeah, so we've got plenty coming up for you in the show. Don't forget, you can check us out on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry is the Twitter handle. You can check out Josh's website, www.joshisdartistry.com. Loads and loads of stuff going up there at the moment. You can also download the podcast from all the usual places, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, the Stitcher app if you are on Android, and we also do a video version that you can find on Josh's YouTube account, and you can of course also check out Josh's Dartistry on Facebook. Just go onto Facebook and do a little search for Josh's Dartistry and you'll find us and give us a follow. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Josh's Dartistry podcast, episode 27. Here we go.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshisdartistry.com for all the latest news and insight into the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329 and leave us a message, and we may play it live on air. Now back to the show.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Let's kick it off then. Let's get going with Q School. Josh, I can't remember a year when there's been so much fever pitch surrounding Q School and who was going to get through and who wasn't. It was an intense run thing this year.
It really was, John, and we mentioned it, I think, on the previous episode. Because of the current situation with the coronavirus pandemic, there was a few notable changes to the format. There was different stages. So stage 1A, stage 1B, because you couldn't have 400, 500 players in one venue. So you had to progress through the first stage and then get to the final stage. So it was a 10-day affair in all. And I think that just added to the anticipation. And yeah, so many big names, many who did progress and claimed a tour card, others who fell by the wayside. So really interesting 10 days or so of darts.
Okay, let's get it out of the way then. Raymond van Barneveld, ladies and gentlemen, has regained his tour card. Josh, all jokes aside, you must be over the moon for him.
You know, I was really pleased. I must admit, in the build-up, I wasn't overly excited. I was a little bit sceptical more than anything about his motivation, how he'd play, you know, whether it would be almost a repeat of his last 18 months, which were pretty disappointing. But after the first stage, when he played really well and progressed with ease, I was quite optimistic. But I knew it was still going to be tough because there were a number of quality players in that final stage. But he started off really well. After day 2, he was on 6 points, and we were chatting on WhatsApp, and we said it was almost a formality, it seemed like. But then he had that opening round exit on day 3 that put him in a little bit of pressure. And then it was Benito van der Pass in the second round on the last day. It all came down to that. If he won that, he was virtually a certainty. If he lost that, in hindsight, he'd have probably been knocked out. So fortunately, he came through that game. But yeah, he played superbly well over the course of the 7 days he was in action. He had the highest tournament average, the most 180s, most ton plus finishes. he showed his class when it mattered. So fair play to him.
Yeah, Neil, throughout Q School, and I know we were in contact throughout Q School, keeping an eye on, well, everybody really, but especially an eye on Barney. Barney was always there or thereabouts. He got his work done early doors, and as Josh said there, gave himself 5 or 6 points after day 2. But in the end, it was just fine lines at the end, wasn't it? Just needed the odd 1 point the next day and a point the other day, just to nudge himself over the line, and he finally did it, Neil.
Yeah, it did look like it was going to be really comfortable until that third day, but I think he was a bit nervous himself from what I saw. I think I read it on Twitter. The fact that he did need to go into the final day needing something, I don't think he was necessarily expecting that. So I'm sure he was nervous, but a man of his quality, he should be qualifying in that field really. But fair play to him for doing so.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of other standout names successfully making it through. Josh, first and foremost, talk to me about these two lads. Former Lakeside champion Scotty Mitchell and of course Martin Schindler from the European final stage.
Well, Scott Mitchell, he had a really tough start after the first 3 days at the UK qualifying school in Milton Keynes. He'd only amassed 1 point, so he needed really to get to at least a semi or a final on the last day. But he played probably the best individual day out of anyone at both Q schools. He averaged 99, I think, over his first 4 games. Got to the final and played Danny Baggish and ran out a very convincing 6-2 winner. So I'm really pleased for Scott because he just missed out last year. We know his pedigree and quality as the former BDO World Champion, and I think he'll be a great acquisition to the tour. And in terms of Martin Schindler, it's been a tough 18 months for Martin. I think he was touted as the next German star, really, besides Max Hopp. But then Gabriel Clemens emerged, Martin's form dwindled a little bit, and it all unravelled a little bit last year. He got his form back towards the end of 2020, but it was a little bit too late in terms of keeping his card. I think he was 1 win away from qualifying for Ali Pali, which would have meant he kept his card. But he breezed through in the end. He had 123 average on one of the days. He beat Barney on day 1 of the final stage and then hit a 9 darter against Barney on the last day, even though he lost. So he topped the order of merit in Europe, and he thoroughly deserved his place on the PDC circuit again.
Just going back to Scotty Mitchell, I did watch an interview, I think it was with Dan Dawson on the PDC Twitter account, where he interviewed Scotty afterwards, and Scotty was very humble, and he was saying that, you know, he still couldn't quite believe it, and that things like this don't happen to people like him, and that he's a simple lad who grew up on a farm, and shouldn't really be hitting the dizzy heights of gaining a PDC tour card. But Josh, as you said there, he's always had the talent and the ability, and it's great to see him finally grab his tour card.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And Scotty is a humble character. I'm not denying that. But I think he's also playing it down a little bit. I mean, he knows he's a quality player. We've seen him at the Grand Slam play some of the best of the PDC and come out victorious. We know how good he is. But one of the reasons he didn't initially join the PDC, I think, after his BDO success was the fact, like you say, he works on a farm, and he wanted to balance his work commitments with playing darts. But I think I also read that he thought that when he won the Lakeside in 2015, he would then get an automatic tour card, which used to happen for the BDO winners. But I think that was the year that they stopped it with Barry Hearn. So that's, I think, why he was a little bit reluctant to make the switch. But I'm glad he's done so, and I think he's got a lot to offer. So, yeah, look out for him. I think he could be one of the best performing new tour card holders, if you like, in 2021.
Going back to the UK Order of Merit winners, Josh, I did mention at the top of the show that you managed to have a chat with one of them. Tell us who that was, mate.
Yeah, it was Danny Baggish, one of the men of the moment. I mean, he had a fantastic World Championship, beat Damon Heta and the 2-time World Champ Adrian Lewis, got to the 3rd round. He's got a really, really big following, partly because he's really big on social media, Danny. He's fantastic in the way he interacts with his fans. But I think on Darts Connect, which I know you're on a lot throughout the Q School, John, you can see how many fans each player has, so to speak, how many people are following their games.
Yeah. And
at the Super Series, which will be starting on Thursday, Danny's the 5th most in terms of fans, behind Michael van Gerwen, Peter Wright, Gary Anderson and Barney. So that just shows his popularity. But in both stages of Q School, he left it to the very last day. He almost missed out through the first stage. I think he went out first round both days, then won it automatically to get through to the final stage. Then I don't think he had a point going into the 4th day. He'd had 1 second round exit and 2 first rounds. So he needed a massive day. He needed to either win it or get to the final. And he was just a man on a mission, played superbly well, but didn't actually think he'd got his tour card when he lost to Scotty Mitchell. He didn't think he'd done enough, but then found out he had fortunately done so. So I'm really pleased for Danny, the first American to get a tour card via Q School. And again, he's a quality player who's got so much to offer. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he fares over the next 2 years.
Yeah, and joining Danny as a UK Order of Merit winner, a couple of names standing out massively to me, Josh, on that list. Two of them, Andrew Gilding and Joe Mernon.
Yeah, Joe Mernon's been a bit of a veteran now. I think he's come through 3 or 4 times at Q School. He knows what it takes. He's got a real A game in him. He's won a Pro Tour event before, so there's no doubt in his ability. And Andrew Gilding has got a really, really good A game. I remember him a couple of years ago getting to the UK Open semi-finals. He lost out in an absolute classic to Michael van Gerwen. So Andrew Gilding, if he can recapture that form, he'll be one to watch. So yeah, a number of big names coming through. It didn't really look likely at one stage. There was a lot of unknown quantities, and there still are, in fairness. But a few of the bigger names emerged later on in the week. But another one we haven't mentioned yet, he won a tour card outright on the first day, and that is Kirk Shepherd, former PDC World finalist back in 2008. I think that's the 4th time now Kirk's come through Q School, which is just an incredible achievement because it is such a difficult, grueling 4 days.
Yeah, it's a great story for Kirk Shepherd. Josh, talk to me about some of the outright winners at European Q School. Give me some of the names there.
Some really good names. Gorton is a player I've followed for a while now. Really talented Dutch player. Got to the final on the first day, just lost out to Gert de Vos, who's a former BDO World Trophy winner. So Gert de Vos was the winner on the opening day. Gorton then went one better on the second day and won it outright. We also had Florian Hempel, a German player who's played a few times on the European Tour. He strung together a really consistent day. Apart from one first round game where he averaged in the 80s, I think his last 6 games he averaged over 94, which takes some doing. And if you can replicate that on the Pro Tour, he's going to have a very successful year. And then finally, on the 4th day, we had Boris Koltsov. Now, Boris was already assured of his tour card after the first round on the 4th day, but he went all the way and won it outright. The first Russian to win his PDC tour card. And we've seen Boris at the World Cup for Russia. We've seen him at the World Championship 3 or 4 times. He's a really, really prolific scorer. His doubling can let him down at times, but if he fires, Boris, watch out.
And Neil, just looking at the European stage Order of Merit winners, Josh has already touched obviously on Martin Schindler, but there's some big names there as well. Neil Zonneveld, Barney we've already mentioned, and the other names that stick out for me are Zoran Lerchbacher and Michael Unterbuchner.
Yeah, I was interested. I was reading about the format today and how people qualify for the two different Q schools, so the UK and the European one. And as you say, some big names there. Unterbuchner, I think, has done well in the BDO, if I remember rightly, Josh.
Yeah, got to 2 semi-finals.
He did, yeah. So some interesting names, some new names, and some different names coming back in. So will only add to the quality on display this season.
Absolutely, and Josh, of course, we celebrate and congratulate the names that have made it through and gained their tour card, whether that's an outright win or via the Order of Merit. But unfortunately, we do have to discuss some of the bigger names that this time round miss out on their tour card, Josh.
Yeah, it's always a shame when you see some established names who've scaled the heights when they have to go back and they just miss out. And unfortunately, it's been the end of a career for one player, which is Kevin Painter. Kevin missed out, just didn't go his way at UK Q School. He was quite optimistic, speaking before the tournament, saying he was playing well, practicing well. He lost a number of close matches, didn't get a point to his name. Fallon Sherrock played really well in the first stage. I think people were quite hopeful that she could have a decent run, but she beat Scott Mitchell on the first day in the final stage. But that was it for her, really. Fallon didn't register a point either. We had Robert Thornton, 2-time major PDC winner. He missed out. He was in contention going into the final day, but suffered an opening round defeat. We had Wayne Warren, the BDO world champ, didn't even make it through to the final stage. Neither did the Wes Newton, former Premier League player. So a number of big names missing out at the UK Q School, and also a few surprises at the Europeans in terms of Nico Kurtz, a really emerging German talent, missed out. We had Matt Campbell, Canadian World Cup quarter-finalist, who played really well at the Worlds. He was disappointing, really. Tony Alcinas, we all know, he's been around for a number of years now. And Benito van der Pas, we mentioned, lost to Barney. That scuppered his hopes. And the former Lakeside winner, Christian Kist. So many names, so many we haven't discussed as well. But I think it just shows the strength in depth now in the world of darts that these players are having to go to Q School and in many cases missing out.
Yeah, it is a shame to see some of those names missing out, and hopefully we will see them return perhaps next year or at different stages. Josh, as Neil mentioned there, though, it is good to see some new names coming through as well on our list of agenda items there. As we've already mentioned, we've got some of the bigger names, but there are some names that possibly none of us have heard that much about, that it's quite exciting to look forward to and see how they get on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of players I know very little about, or I did do before Q School, the likes of Jake Jones, who won a tour card outright. Jason Heaver, we know he's been in the UK Open as a Riley's amateur qualifier a couple of times. Jack Main, he was a real surprise package, who won the UK Order of Merit outright. But I'm quite excited about the likes of Adam Gadlas, who came for a European Q School by the Order of Merit. He's a former World Youth finalist, also played well at the Grand Slam last year, and he's a real talent. But one thing we haven't mentioned, which is a really interesting story, John Brown, a very talented young player, got his tour card via the UK Order of Merit. And his father, Steve, is also on the PDC circuit. So I think it's the first time we'll have a father and son combination on the PDC Pro Tour since maybe Colin and Aaron Monk. So that's a really interesting story and a narrative to focus on for the next year or so.
Yeah, I saw that story breaking on social media yesterday, so that's very interesting. Very interesting, the kind of stories and scenarios and backstories that something like Q School does throw up. So yeah, it'll be interesting for the next 12 months, and we'll see how some of those names get on, and yeah, we'll keep our eyes on it for you. That was your Q School roundup.
This is Raymond van Barneveld, and you listen to Josh Dartistry.
Right then, Josh, we mentioned him a couple of times during our Q School roundup. You got the chance to talk to Danny Baggish the other day.
Yeah, Danny's a great story. We've known about him since winning the North American Championship about 18 months ago, but the last few months he's really made a name for himself. He's going to be on the PDC Pro Tour for at least the next 2 years and maybe beyond. So yeah, great to chat to Danny. So guys, I'm delighted here to be joined by new PDC Tour card holder Danny Baggish. Danny, many thanks for joining me, mate.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Thanks for having me.
It's been a bit of a whirlwind week or so for you, Danny, but you're now officially a PDC Tour card holder. How does that feel?
Yeah, it won't get old, you saying that. It feels unbelievable. Just another check mark for me, another dream coming true, and a lot more to come, hopefully.
You left it until the final stage to get through stage one. Then you left it to the final day of the last stage to win your tour card. So you don't make it easy for yourself, do you?
No, it's actually kind of stressful. I can't imagine anyone watching that wants me to win or whatever the case may be. I can't imagine what they're going through. Yeah, I gotta figure out what I'm doing the first couple stages to, mentally or even throw in or technique or whatever the case may be to where it's, I'm getting different results. But I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, I guess.
Absolutely, and you must take a lot of confidence from the fact that you're able to produce your best darts when you needed them most, when you're under most pressure.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way, and I kind of joked about it after the second stage. I kind of joked about it saying, just put me on the stage. I feel like I play better. So, yeah, I guess the pressure is what I need, and I feel comfortable in those situations.
Now, going into that final day and the final against Scott Mitchell, we all knew watching via Darts Connect, we knew that you only needed one leg to get your tour card. But were you aware of that, or did you think you had to win the game?
Yeah, I was not aware of that. I actually thought I had to win, either win or 6-4 or 6-5 would put me through. I wasn't aware of the leg difference, so yeah, I thought I kind of bottled it at the end there. What
was your reaction then when you lost the game, and then awfully afterwards when you were told that you had done enough to secure your tour card?
Yeah, when I lost the game, I was devastated, upset. I kind of felt like I let myself down because I played so well throughout the day, and to not win there was Scott played so well, but yeah, I was upset. But when I found out afterwards, it was just pure emotions that come out.
No, I can imagine. And I heard that before the final day, Wayne Mardle had given you some advice, particularly on your doubles, and it awfully seemed to work. So what did Wayne say to you before the final day?
Oh, Josh, you're not the only one that's asked. Come on, man. If I tell you, then, maybe other players are going to use it, and then their double percentage is going to go up.
It has to be a secret formula then.
Well, yeah, if he wants to tell you, I'll let him tell you. Let's just say it worked for me.
That's a good answer, Danny. But you're not the first American to compete on the PDC circuit, but you are the first to get a tour card via qualifying school, so you must be really proud of that achievement.
Yeah, I'm really, really proud. And then, Danny Lauby, he could have had a chance as well. He could have been the unluckiest player all week, to be honest. So, yeah, I just hope I inspired players back home or players across the world to show that anyone really can do it.
Absolutely, and it's been a brilliant few months for you on the board, but I know away from the board it's been a really tough time in terms of family and stuff. But how are things now? Because I know your brother was very unwell during the World Championship, but is he on the road to recovery?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, he's actually just FaceTimed him about 2 days ago, and I talked to him. So, on the road to recovery. Everything's looking good, and just fingers crossed it stays that way.
That's fantastic. And I know from your perspective, you also tested positive for COVID, didn't you, shortly after the World Championship? But did that affect your preparation at all for Q School? Because I know you said on Twitter that you were quite fatigued when you were practicing straight away afterwards.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. After the World Championships, I started throwing my new Gen 1 darts, and I was playing so well. The CDC series back at home was on, and I had 3 weeks to make up. And my first 2 weeks, I was averaging 92, 94, and then I play Gary Mawson, and I averaged a 106. And I was coming in with so much confidence, and then I got hit with COVID, and it kicked my butt, man. I just no energy, couldn't move, my bones hurt. Even afterwards, when I was over it, I couldn't get up. I played 1 or 2 games, I'd be out of breath. And to be honest, before I come into Q School, I maybe practiced in a week and a half, 2 weeks. I probably practiced a total of 4 or 5 hours. Wow.
But going back to the World Championship again, you had a fantastic time at Ali Pali, beating Damon Heta and Adrian Lewis, of course, 2-time world champion. You gave Glenn Durrant a real game as well. But I've seen your averages on the CDC circuit, and I've spoken to John Part about you before, and he's spoken so highly of you. But do you feel like there's even more to come from you on the big stage in terms of those ton-plus averages?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just gonna come with time. I'm getting comfortable playing the players over here and so forth, and upping my game on a regular basis. But back in the States, I play so well, and I don't know if it's because of the confidence or what, but I feel like I've only played my B game over here. And once my A game does come out, I feel like I can compete with anyone.
And we know playing on the PDC Tour, it's a major commitment. And what's the plan for you now? Because at the moment we're living in a COVID world and it's very difficult in terms of travel. Are you planning to travel back to the States, or are you going to base yourself over here now? And what's happening with your family? Are they going to come over or not?
Yeah, as long as I have time to go back for 2 to 3 weeks, if we have a break, then I will. But with the quarantine rules and stuff like that, if I couldn't fully commit myself to being a PDC tour card holder and a PDC player, I would have never went to Q School. So those discussions were made, and I'm over here as I'm not going to miss any tournaments. So I'm over here for good, or to go back and forth very minimal, and that's what technology is for. I can FaceTime my kids and do all that. So I just have to be mentally strong.
No, that's great to hear. And you've got your PDC tour card now for 2 years at least. What's the target? Is it just about keeping your tour card, or are you aiming higher, top 64, top 32?
I'm a little bit of a realist. I understand that it's going to be a long road and a hard road, and I'm going to get my butt beat a few times or a lot of times, whatever the case may be. So, but I plan on trying to make the top 64. And we'll see what happens. I don't want to lose my tour card ever, not anytime soon at least. So that's the goal for now.
And I've seen on social media, you said you were quite overwhelmed with the amount of support you were getting, not just from fans in America, but in the UK. And when you go on Darts Connect, you can see how many fans each player has in terms of following their games. Have you been surprised by the amount of support you've got from people?
Well, of course, yeah. I'm really surprised. But then again, maybe it's not so surprising if, it's really simple. If you treat everyone with respect and love the fans who basically make the darts for us to play, and you'll be fine, and everyone's going to like you. That's how I was raised, and that's how I'll always be, and I'll never change. As long as I'm living and playing the darts, I'll always treat fans with respect, and I'll always get them involved because they make me who I am today.
Absolutely. That's a great answer. And I saw you had so much support going into that final day at Q School, people giving you encouragement, saying keep believing, it's not over yet. And do you feel that the fans and the support they offered you had a real impact in you getting that tour card on the last day?
Huge impact. Because like you said, I'm huge on social media, and it doesn't bother me if people say anything negative, positive, whatever the case may be, because that's when my mental game comes in. But everyone was just so positive and just telling, it's your day. Forget about the first couple of days. Today's your day. You always have to have that mentality, which is true. You always have to believe that day is your day. And when I got rolling a little while, a couple games, I believe that day was my day. And if it wasn't for them continuing to believe in me and giving me the support, and myself and my family and so forth, maybe I don't win that day.
And just finally, Danny, we've seen at the Ali Pali that you can compete with the best in the world on your day.
Just how excited are you now to be competing against the likes of potentially Michael van Gerwen, Price, Peter Wright over the next 2 years or so?
I'm still a fan at heart of the game, and that's why I wear my emotions on my sleeve, because I care so much about it. So just to see these guys on a regular basis for at least the next 2 years is absolutely wonderful. And they've all treated me with so much respect. Not one of them have been rude to me or anything like that. So I just can't wait. It's an honor to share the tour with those guys.
Well, listen, Danny, it's been great to see your progress at the Worlds and at Q School. I wish you all the very best for the Super Series and the UK Open and the 2 years following. So best of luck, Danny, and thanks for speaking to me today, mate.
Josh, thank you so much. You're welcome, man.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is Josh's interview with Danny Baggish, fresh from securing his PDC Tour card in Milton Keynes. Josh paid a lot of tribute to the fans, supporting him and helping to inspire him, really, on the final day of Q School.
Yeah, as I said to you about 10, 15 minutes ago, John, we mentioned how popular he was in terms of the following on Darts Connect. But I followed Danny on social media, and he had literally hundreds of people messaging him after his third day exit. People saying, keep believing, you did it on the final day in the first stage. There's no reason you can't do it again. And he seemed to be just in inspired form. I think Q School is one of those events. If you get a couple of wins under your belt, suddenly the momentum starts kicking in, the belief starts, and we all know Danny's quality. So I'm really pleased for him, and I think he's going to be one to really follow. I think he's going to have a really positive 2 years, and I don't think he'll have many issues in keeping his tour card, providing he can play the tour and commit to it.
Neil, just listening to Danny there, he sounded pretty fired up to me.
Yeah, I think we'd already, as we alluded to, saw an impressive performance from him at the World Championship. I think that gave him a really big confidence boost. I remember reading his tweets post going out, and I think he returned to the States. And he was really, really positive and really, really boosted and buoyed by the fact that he'd played so well. So it's no surprise to me that he's come back. He's qualified at Q School, and I reckon we'll see him going and progressing nicely on the tour. Okay, well, a big thank you to Danny Baggish from all of us here on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, just for taking the time out of his busy schedule and coming on to have a quick chat with Josh. Thank you, Danny. That's very kind of you, and you're always welcome on the JDP.
You're listening to Josh's Dartistry. Don't forget, you can check us out on Facebook by going to the Josh's Dartistry page. You can follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry, or go to the website www.joshisdartistry.com for the latest news and insight to the world of darts. You can also leave us a comment or a question via our voicemail box. Just call 07739 738 329. Leave us a message and we may play it on air. Now back to the show.
Hello everybody, I'm Glenn Durrant and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, Josh, before we move it on to our regular odds section, what are the odds with regular statsman Mr. Neil Connor? Just take us through what's coming up in the calendar, maybe over the next few weeks. Super Series on the horizon, I see.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be the first ranking event of the 2021 season. The PDC introduced a number of series last year. We had the summer series, the autumn series and the winter series. So basically it was 4 or 5 events congested into a 4 or 5 day period, because usually Pro Tours are done over a weekend. So you'll have probably 15 weekends over the course of the year in Barnsley or Wigan. But because of COVID, it's not really sustainable to keep having, prolonged weekends. So they're trying to do it in an intensive period, and it worked really well last year. So they're introducing the Super Series. And the first of these 4 events are going to be taking place, from Thursday to Sunday, the 25th to the 28th of February in Bolton, which formerly hosted the UK Open. So it's going to be the first chance for a number of players to dust off the cobwebs and start their new season. So we've got 128 players in action. Most of the new tour card holders, a couple are missing out, I think, but all the big boys are there. The likes of Gerwen, Price, Michael van Gerwen, Gary Anderson, Peter Wright, you name it. All the big boys are there, and it should be a really competitive 4 days of action. And then after that, we've got the first major tournament, the first major ranking event, I should say, of the year. We had the Masters, of course, which is an unranked event. But the UK Open, the FA Cup of Darts, always one of my favourite tournaments. Unfortunately, it's not taking place in Minehead with supporters, as we know, due to the current restrictions. But it will be played in Milton Keynes behind closed doors. 160 players, No Riley's qualifiers this year because they can't be held. But there'll be the rest of the players after the 128 tour card holders will be made up of either development tour players, challenge tour players, and those that just missed out at the respective Q schools. So it'll be still a very competitive lineup.
Neil, the thing that sticks out to me about Josh's news on the UK Open, no Riley's qualifiers this year.
Yeah, he was definitely being entered for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, we weren't able to submit his application, were we, due to that?
No, and he told me during Q school that he reckons he could have competed in quite a few of the matches. So
hang on.
It's a card we'll keep up our sleeve for next year, I think.
I said there were one or two players I might have beaten. I wasn't saying I could be competitive. But there was someone who averaged 41. So I thought I'd fancy him in a draw.
Backtracking now.
What was what did you say Barney was averaging at Q school?
94.6, I think. It's a little bit above my level, John, I'll be honest.
What are you currently averaging, Josh?
Well, to be fair, he could beat me with 2 darts. Let's just say that.
Excellent. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, you can look forward to us entering Josh into the UK Open for the 2022 season.
I could draw Barney, you never know.
You could draw Barney. You might even beat him. Not on that average, you won't know. So that's what we've got coming up. In actual fact, Josh, by the time this podcast probably goes live, the Super Series will be underway because it begins it's Wednesday as we're recording. So it begins Thursday. It begins tomorrow.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll probably be a couple of days in, but should be a really good 4 days of darts. Hopefully Barney's return. All the new tour card holders get their first taste of Pro Tour action. The big boys looking to make a statement. So I'm expecting really, really high standard of darts.
Right, off the back of that then, let's get some odds.
Cool. What are the odds?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, can I hand you over to our regular stats man and Mr. Neil Connor?
Thanks, John. So looking forward to the PDC Super Series 1. Odds brought to us this time by Sporting Bet. So Michael van Gerwen, predictably the favourite, but 3-1 to win. Sizable field, but still sizable odds for Michael van Gerwen. Gerwin Price, second favourite, 7-2. Peter Wright, 6-1. And then it drops right down to the likes of Gary Anderson and Michael Smith at 20-1. If you fancy an outsider, you've got the likes of Glenn Durrant, Simon Whitlock and Stephen Bunting at 66-1. Any fancies from either of you two?
One player I think is really in form at the moment and is always consistent on the Pro Tour, Mervyn King. I backed him at the Masters and he got to the final.
You get a 33 on Merv.
Okay.
I can't look past the top two lads there, Van Gerwen and Price. I think they'll take at least one each. Josh, what do you reckon?
I think that's a safe bet. I mean, Van Gerwen's going to be looking to make a statement after also not only his performance at the Worlds, but also losing out to Johnny Clayton at the Masters. So I think Van Gerwen will take one. Price, Peter Wright will be there and thereabouts as well. I mean, it sounds predictable to say it, but I think those top three will dominate and will be up there in terms of the order of merit after those 4 days.
Just noticed Raymond van Barneveld. What do you think his odds would be, Josh?
If you said Whitlock was 66, 125-1?
150-1.
Okay.
Possibility of a big price on Barney.
It will be interesting to see how Barney adapts to touring life again, Josh. Obviously, it's going to be a bit. I know he's done it for years and years and years, but let's have it right. He's been out of the game for a year. He's changed his routine, and he hasn't been travelling around so much. So it will be interesting to see if he can hit the ground running and adapt to tour life quickly.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe the year out has done him good in terms of it's re-energised him, but it can be difficult. I think when you're in that bubble environment. If you go out in the first round, for example, on Thursday, you got to go back to your hotel room for 20 hours and then do it all again the next day. It can be quite draining and a bit demoralising, but he seems in a better headspace, which I think is crucial because we all know he's got the ability and the quality, but mentally he wasn't right in the last 18 months. He had a lot of things going on in his private life, but I think I always think back when I think of his last 18 months, the abiding memory is just that excruciating interview at the end after he went out the Worlds, which was it was a bit painful, wasn't it, to be honest? So, but he seems a lot happier now. So it'll be interesting to see, but it's going to be very tough because, he's playing well at Q School, but you could draw Michael van Gerwen first round. You could draw anyone on that Pro Tour is capable of averaging 100 on their day. So it'll be tough for him, but if he plays like he did at Q School, he'll be competitive.
Okay, let's move on then. Let's have a look at the Premier League. Now, before Neil brings us some updated Premier League odds, since we last spoke, Josh, the calendar's been released and we know kind of how it's going to fall and what it's going to look like. And, of course, we've also had our 10th player confirmed.
We have, yeah. We speculated whether the 10th player will be announced after the Masters, depending on who won and how the players performed. And as it transpired, we had 2 players in the final at the Masters who weren't in the Premier League, Johnny Clayton and Mervyn King, both relative outsiders, really. And ironically, neither of them would have been in the Masters unless they'd expanded the field from 16 to 24 players. So they both came through, did really, really well. But it was Johnny Clayton who ran out victorious. But it was announced about 20 minutes before the players went on the hockey that the winner of that final between Mervyn King and Johnny Clayton would be getting the 10th and final Premier League spot. Now, we are told that the players did not know. Did not know, categorically did not know. Wayne Mardle was sceptical, I know, on Twitter about it. I don't know. They might have had an inkling, I think, because there was a lot of speculation beforehand. But Johnny Clayton was a man who reigned supreme, and he'll be in the Premier League next year. We saw him as a challenger last year, but now he's a full-time player, so we'll have 2 Welshmen competing. So congratulations to Johnny. I'm really pleased for him. He's a great player and an even better guy. Yeah,
many congratulations to Johnny for winning the Masters and of course being confirmed as the 10th player. We did discuss this at length on our WhatsApp group. I wasn't a fan of how it was done. But then I'm a grumpy old so-and-so anyway, as you guys know. I'm a traditionalist. I don't know, it just felt like a bit of a last-minute gimmick. And I know that the PDC have tried some gimmicks in the last 18 months, especially with the Premier League and the contenders, which we've discussed ad nauseum over previous podcasts, so we won't go down that route again. But I don't know, the fact that they didn't know what they were playing for, who knows? Mervyn King might have thought to himself, well, if I'd have known that, I might have, like, you know, I don't know, played a bit better if that was in my head, knowing that was up for grabs. I don't know. I just didn't like it, Josh. It didn't sit well with me. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I was a little bit undecided. I see your point completely, but I'll play devil's advocate, because if the players knew, for example, that they were playing for a Premier League spot, not only are they playing in the major final, they've also got that incentive of the Premier League spot. It could also create pressure, and we could have seen quite a messy game. So maybe that was the reason behind it, but I do agree, you know, Mervyn might have been sitting there thinking, that would have given me the extra spark I needed in the final after quite a long day. So I don't know, but equally, I've got no issue with Johnny being in the Premier League, because he's had a really good last year. He won the World Cup with Gerwyn Price for Wales. Now he's a major winner as well. I think he's deserving of his spot. But I think from a marketing point of view, it's quite clever from the PDC, because the Masters, it's the first event of the year, so hopefully it is of interest to us darts fans. But maybe for the casual darts watcher, it doesn't have the appeal, because it is a non-ranked event. But I think the fact that they were playing for a Premier League spot, essentially, it did add that little bit more intrigue to it.
Neil, what was your take on that? How did you feel about the winner of that game being awarded the Premier League place? And also talk to me about maybe one or the 2 of the names that you might feel for who've subsequently missed out on the Premier League.
So I didn't have a problem, because I felt for both players the situation was the same. So it wasn't like the fact that was on the line affected either of them, because they were both in the same situation and they both didn't know. So from that perspective, I didn't have a problem. I'm sure there will be other players that have performed well over the past few months, Dave Chisnall being one of them, that will be extremely disappointed that he missed out. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it. I'm a big fan of Johnny Clayton anyway, so I was pleased to see him qualify. I feared that they might go down the Barney route, and they would have waited to see whether he qualified at Q School, and they didn't. So, yeah, harsh on the likes of Chizzy, and I think James Wade is another one that was probably worthy of a mention. But yeah, it'd be nice to see someone new in terms of Johnny Clayton, and it'll be interesting, because he's a good player, Johnny, and if he can get it right, and he can build on the confidence that he would have built up by winning the Masters, then I think we could see him kick on and move higher up the rankings than he is currently, and hopefully challenge for the big prizes.
We've got news on the format, Josh. The first 9 nights of the Premier League would take place behind closed doors at the Milton Keynes Marshall Arena.
Yeah, it felt slightly inevitable, to be honest. I think the PDC were waiting as long as possible to see whether there was any possibility they could introduce fans back into the arenas. But that's not going to be until sometime in the summer. And the Premier League's such a big event and it takes so much time usually. They've decided to host 9 events in April in the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes. So we'll have 5 nights from April the 5th until the 9th. Then we'll have another 4 nights from the 19th of April to the 22nd. And after the 22nd, which is essentially Judgment Night, we'll have 2 players eliminated, back reverting to the old format, which is the 10 full-time players. So I feel slightly for the likes of Johnny Clayton, Jose de Souza and Dimitri van den Berg, who are new to the Premier League. I know Dimitri played as a challenger as well as Johnny, but they won't get to experience that, that atmosphere, that buzz of playing in some of the biggest arenas in the darting world over those 9 weeks. But hopefully, if they can all survive elimination, they'll have the opportunity, hopefully, with fans to compete in the second stage, which I think they're hoping to host in the summer. Whether that comes to fruition, I'm not too sure. But it'll be a different Premier League this year. But I did quite enjoy the intensive sort of 10-day period they had last year, because I think sometimes with the Premier League, because it's over 16 weeks, sometimes certain players fall out of contention. It does sometimes feel like it's dragging on a little bit, whereas I think this is more intensive. There's a few more storylines that emerge and, a few more fluctuations in form. I think it'll be interesting.
Okay, Neil, so Clayton, De Souza, Cross, Durrant, Wright, Price, Van Gerwen, Anderson, Aspinall and Van den Berg. Who is going to win it? Over to you, buddy.
According to the bookies, and again, going back to Sporting Bet for the odds, Michael Van Gerwen is 2-1 favourite, closely followed by Gerwin Price, the world number 1, at 9-4. So it's neck and neck between what the bookies probably see as the best 2 players in the world at the moment. Third favourite, Peter Wright, 5-1. Dimitri van den Berg, 10-1. Gary Anderson, 12-1. Jose de Souza, 16-1. Glenn Durrant, defending champion, 20-1.
Absolute disgrace.
What, you think that's too high?
Yeah, but I said it on the last podcast that we did, even before we knew who the 10th entrant was, even before Clayton had won his place. For the defending champion to be that much of a rank outsider, for me, is embarrassing.
Yeah. Whilst his form hasn't been as strong as it possibly could be, he is someone that will always compete and is very, very consistent.
Well, I will definitely be having a few quid on Glenn this year, definitely.
Interesting at 20-1 because he's the same price as the Ferret, Johnny Clayton, 20-1, and the same price as the Asp, Nathan Aspinall. So quite a big price on. I think he was finalist last year, wasn't he, Aspinall?
Yeah.
And the outsider is the out of form Rob Cross at 50-1.
Right then, let me ask you guys. Let's pick our winners now, and I can play this audio back to you in a few months' time. I'll begin with myself. I'm going to nail my colours to the mast as I just did when Neil was doing the odds. I'm going to pick Durrant to successfully defend his title. I think he's proved that he's got the mentality to do it over the long format, and I'm going to pick him, and I am going to put a few quid on Durrant, so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Glenn Durrant for me. Josh Gorton, where are you going?
I'm going to go for a new winner of the Premier League. I'm going to back Peter Wright. I think he's got a point to prove in 2021 after a frustrating end to the year as world champion. He's played well at the Masters. He's had a few near misses at the Premier League before. I think Peter Wright wins his first Premier League title.
Neil.
I am going to go for Gary Anderson,
Ooh,
who I think we saw find some form at the World Championships. Ultra talented, a difficult man to stop when he's at the very top of his game. So I'll stick with Gary Anderson.
Good. Well done. Okay, well, that concludes What Are the Odds for this episode. Thanks to Neil for bringing those odds to us. If you've got a few quid burning a hole in your pocket, then hopefully Neil has given you some idea of the best place to put it. Don't forget, here on the Josh's Dartistry podcast, please, we remind you to gamble responsibly. And as ever, when the fun stops, stop.
Cool. What are the odds?
You're listening to the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Don't forget you can check us out on Facebook, the Josh's Dartistry page. You can also follow us on Twitter at Josh's Dartistry. And you can also go to our website, www.joshisdartistry.com, for all the latest news, blogs and information on the world of darts. Don't forget you can also call us and leave us a message on our voicemail box. That's 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329. Call our voicemail box, leave us a message, leave us a question, and we may play it on the show. Now back to the show.
This is Nathan Aspinall, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, welcome back to the show. It's that time when we test Josh Gorton's darting knowledge. This is Challenge Josh.
Challenge Josh.
Yes, that's right. It's time for Challenge Josh. Everybody's favourite part of the show when Neil attempts to make Josh look a bit silly to the general darting public, but unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, he absolutely knocks it out of the park. Before I hand you over to resident quizmaster Neil Connor, I want to put a caveat on Challenge Josh this evening. I've no idea what the questions are, what the subject matter is. However, Josh, I would like to propose that if you get 2 or less wrong, I will forgive you for leaving me out of your fantasy cricket team.
Oh,
okay. So
I can't. You know what I'm like under pressure, John. I'm going to get 4 out of 15 now.
So if you get 2 wrong, 1 wrong, or none wrong, I will forgive you. Any more than that, and our friendship is over. All right.
It's going to be like,
That's a big incentive for you there.
Absolutely. You can repair a lot.
Pressure though.
You can repair a lot of damage that you've done today, Josh.
That wasn't the incentive I was talking about. I'd be throwing it, Josh.
Crawl. Right then, let's crack on, ladies and gentlemen. Please pray silence for our resident quizmaster, Mr. Neil Connor.
Thank you, John. So after a very, very impressive performance last time out, did you get 14 or did you get 15, Josh? It was a tricky one.
It might have been 14. I'm not too sure. Maybe 14.
It was a very tricky one, and you managed to pull. I think it was about Gerwyn Price, wasn't it? And
that was it. Yeah.
Managed to pull it out the bag. So today we'll have a little bit of general darting knowledge, a little bit about Q School, and you're looking worried. So that's great.
Yeah.
So off we go.
Oh dear.
Question number 1.
Mm.
Which 11 players would you put in your cricket team between 2016 and 2018?
Pass.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Let's not go there. I'm being naughty. Right, okay. Who was the very first BDO World Darts Champion in 1978?
Leighton Rees.
Yes, of course, Leighton Rees. Easing him in here, Neil.
I am indeed. But let's see. Question number 2. How many different ways are there
Not these questions.
to throw a 9-darter in a 501 leg?
Ooh, that's a tough question,
That is, I'm going to have to get me working out now. Okay.
Does that mean you're getting your calculator out? Because that's banned.
No. 181 41.
If you can hear typing in the background, ladies and gents,
That's my Word document.
It's www.google.co.uk being entered into the computer.
Unfortunately, Google won't be able to tell me that, I don't think, John. 177. This is tough,
I would just like to remind you that our friendship is at stake here.
Yeah, I'm in trouble on this one.
I'm going to give you a tolerance of the nearest 5.
Oh, generosity, Neil. Come on.
Nearest 5? That's got me worried now.
And Josh thought there was only 7 ways.
I was going to say, I was thinking, oh no. 180, 177.
Let's just say if you're going to work out the answer by using your keyboard, it's going to take you all night.
Yeah, and I've got to go to work tomorrow morning, so...
We need an answer, Josh. Come on.
I don't know.
I think we might have had this question before.
Under
pressure.
Wow. Early hesitance.
It's going to be in the thousands, isn't it?
Early hesitance.
Nearest 5. Right, we're going to have to push you for an answer.
3,000, I don't know.
Is that your final answer, 3,000?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. You've got 1 life lost. Neil, tell us how many?
3,944 ways of throwing a 9-dart finish in a 501 leg.
3,944.
How many of those have you done, Josh?
I don't need my calculator for that one. None.
I have to say, Josh, just as a little caveat, you've lost a life there. That was question 2.
No, they're a mixed bag of questions. But
well, I hope so. If it's progressively harder, I might as well go home.
I wanted to create pressure early doors just to see how he fares. So, right, let's crack on. Question 3.
Curveball there.
Okay, question 3. Here we go.
Which dart players use or used the following nicknames? So I'm going to name 4 nicknames, and I'll need you to tell me the 4 players. So the first one, Bobby Dazzler.
Bobby Dazzler.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Oh, is it? Oh. Bobby George?
Right, that's correct. Does he need to get all 4 for the point here, Neil?
He does, yeah.
Okay.
What?
All 4
So the
for
second one, the history maker.
Brendan Dolan.
Third one, Jaws.
Colin Lloyd.
Fourth one, Demolition Man.
Aaron Webster, one of your favourites, Neil.
Yeah. Well done.
That is correct. Named all 4. Stumbled on the first
Bobby
one.
Dazzler. I don't know why. I didn't think that was Bobby George's nickname. But I knew it wasn't Bob Anderson because he's a limestone cowboy. So it had me flummoxed. I was trying to think. I almost said Bobby Dazzler. I was in such a head spin.
We've got him going here, though.
He's on the ropes early doors.
This is good to see.
Got
Okay.
my towel ready.
Question 4. Which double did Peter Wright hit in order to win his long sought-after first PDC World Darts Championship?
Double 10.
Yeah, double 10, the long-awaited title for Peter Wright, winning it on double 10. Well done, Josh. That is 3 out of 4. So you've recovered a little bit since dropping a point. But well done. Let's see how you get on with question number 5.
What was Phil Taylor's first professional title in 1988?
It weren't the Worlds. Phil Taylor. He won the... It's going to be a BDO title. Because he won the... I think he won his first 2 world titles were both BDO titles. Oh, it could be the World Masters. The World Trophy.
If it was the BDO World title, I guarantee he would have had it taken off of him very quickly.
Topical, John.
Controversial.
1988.
Yep.
1988.
Big major ranking.
No, I didn't say that. I said first professional win.
Oh, first professional win. It was in Belgium.
Oh, that changes everything.
It was in Belgium. He won it. I remember interviewing him on Zoom about it.
What? You interviewed him in 1998?
No, not
1980.
I'd have been 3. No. Yeah, I'd have been. Oh God, was it? Sorry, 1998. What year?
1988.
Yeah, I thought you said 88. Definitely 88.
No, I didn't interview him then because I'd have been -7. I would have guessed the World Masters, but I just don't.
Gonna have to pressure for an answer.
First professional title.
I am that close to deleting your phone number from my phone.
I think he's doing it deliberately.
Do you reckon he's having me on?
Yeah.
How do you reckon? How could I know 1988?
Because you're a darting historian. You're a fan of the sport. You're a journalist. You should
know.
You should know a bit about its history. I wasn't alive when Spurs last won the league, but I know what it was. It was black and white.
But let's be honest. Most people weren't alive, John. Let's be frank.
Here we go.
That is the good news. Everyone who's been vaccinated now wouldn't have seen Spurs win the league. Oh no. Oh, I've got that joke wrong.
You have got that joke wrong, but you're also not doing much to salvage our friendship. Come on, give us an answer, please. Give us an answer.
Was it Vegas? Was it in Vegas? Vegas? It was Vegas or...
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, baby.
No, it was in Vegas or Canada.
2 very different places.
Yeah, it was a North American title. It was in '88. North American. Was it the American Open? Canadian Open. I don't know. Canadian Open.
Unbelievable.
How did I burgle that one?
That is unbelievable. I'm fuming.
Oh, I'm not done just yet.
I'm suspicious. Because he was going nowhere there, then suddenly plucks the Canadian Open. Have you seen that thing about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The guy, the major that won $1 million.
Yeah, was coughing. Yeah,
had someone coughing. So listen out.
Yeah.
To be fair, my sister has just coughed, but I think that's because she's just taken a COVID test.
Well, we'll listen back in the audio when I edit the show. I'll see if I can find any skullduggery taking place. Right.
We could make a TV show out of it.
Neil, was that?
I'm not sure many people will watch.
Is that 4 out of 5, Neil?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on then to question number 6.
Which 3 titles does one need to win in order to achieve the Triple Crown?
The World Championship, the World Match Play, and the Premier League.
Yep, of course it is. Josh, can you tell us for a bonus point? No, there's no bonus point, but tell us who's completed that.
I believe only 3.
Whoa, stop, everyone stop. Whoa.
Reverse.
Neil, sorry, have I inadvertently almost
not jump the gun.
ruined one of your questions?
Like 5 out of 6, question 7.
I must remember to shut up.
moving swiftly on.
Here we go.
Which 3 players have achieved the Triple Crown?
Well preempted there, John. Phil Taylor, obviously, Michael van Gerwen, and Gary Anderson.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah, it was the natural question to ask afterwards, wasn't it? I suppose I should have thought about that. So well done. That is 6 out of 7 now, I believe.
It is, yeah.
Let's move on then to question number 8.
Nice, easy one. Which pair have won the PDC World Cup of Darts a record 4 times?
Which pair? Yeah, Phil Taylor and Adrian Lewis. Almost fell for that.
Yeah, England, Phil Taylor and A.D. Lewis. Very successful English World Cup of Darts team, Josh. The like of which we've not seen since Taylor stopped throwing and Lewis obviously suffering with his form.
Yeah, it's a very different looking England team now with Rob Cross and Dave Chisholm and Rob Cross and Michael Smith the last few years. Yeah, England and Holland both level on 4 World Cup wins. Barney's got 4, 3 of them with Van Gerwen.
I predict Wales to perform quite well over the next couple of years, Josh.
Well, yeah, they won it last year with Clayton and Price, and I think 2 Premier League players now. They're in really good space. I think Scotland, if Anderson and Wright were to reform their partnership, they'd be a real contender. But I'm not sure whether that's going to happen. But a lot more countries now are in contention for that.
Okay, Neil, let's move on to question number 9.
Who hit the first televised 9-darter?
Anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
John Lowe.
Yeah, correct. Neil, can you put some flesh on the bones for that for us?
I can. So it was in the MFI World Match Play on the 13th of October 1984 versus Keith Deller.
There we go.
What was MFI?
Not too sure, Neil. I hope that's not question 10.
It's a furniture company.
Yeah, they don't exist anymore, do they? MFI?
I don't think they do, no.
Neil, can we please have question number 10?
A World Championship final winning finish of treble 20, treble 18, double 12 is named after which former champion?
Keith Deller.
Yeah,
the Deller checkout, treble 20, treble 18, treble 12. Well done. Keith Deller it was.
Yeah, well done. So we still only dropped 1. Josh, you can afford to drop another one to protect our friendship, but any more than that, and our future will be in trouble. Let's move on to question number 11.
Who is the youngest person to hit a televised 9-darter?
Quite 9-dart heavy this challenge,
Yep.
Josh. Neil.
Michael van Gerwen?
Is that your answer?
Yeah. Against Barney.
That is correct. I was against Barney, was it, Josh?
I think he was 17. I think when he was in the BDO, it was like a cross-code tournament in Holland. He was 17. He lost to Barney, but hit a 9-darter, then beat Phil Taylor 3-0. That was his like real emergence then.
He was aged 17 years and 298 days, and it was the semi-finals of the 2007 Masters of Darts.
Wow, and he was 17, Neil.
Yeah.
Well, what were you doing when you were 17?
Me?
Yeah.
Is that broadcastable?
Probably, I don't know, waiting outside pubs trying to get in, I would think.
Yeah. The point I was making is not a lot of 17-year-olds standing up on a stage throwing 9-darters, I think.
No, definitely not.
Okay, let's move on. Question number 12.
How old do you have to be to enter Q School?
You've got to be at least 16.
Yep, you have to be 16 years of age minimum to enter Q School, and there's probably not a maximum. I wouldn't have thought, Josh.
No, I think that's the great thing about the sport of darts. It's open for any ages. We've seen with Mervyn King, he's having a renaissance now, 54 years old. Paul Lim playing at the World, 66 years old. So age is just a number, John.
Neil, would I be ruining a future question by asking Josh if he knew who was the youngest player to qualify from Q School? Do you know that off the top of your head, Josh?
To qualify or just playing? I'm not.
Well, I suppose either or, really. It'd be an interesting topic.
I think Bo Greaves played at the... I think she played at Q School last year. Now, Bo, I think, only just turned 16, so she's got to be up there.
Okay, let's move on. Let's have question number 13.
What happens to those at Q School who miss out on PDC tour cards?
Quite generic. They go home.
They go home. They get thrown in the bin.
Surprisingly enough, that is not the answer I'm looking for.
Oh well, if he's got it wrong, and then he's got it wrong.
No.
Oh, no, that was correct. That was the wrong sound effect. It should have been that one. That's incorrect, Josh. No,
I was being sarcastic. I was about to say what you're looking for, but that'd be you telling me the answer. Well, they can play on the Challenge Tour for a start. The players can play on the Challenge Tour, and certain players that just miss out on a tour card, they end up forming a reserve list to play on Pro Tour events. I'm not sure if that's specific enough for you.
Yeah, Neil's giving me the thumbs up. That is what he was looking for. Neil, has he covered all bases there?
Well, more or less. I mean, the official answer is that they become PDPA associate members and then become eligible to compete on the PDC Unicorn Challenge Tour in 2021.
Okay, so that was question 13. We've got 2 questions remaining. If you get this next one right, Josh, you've saved our friendship officially. All right. So
I thought he could only get 1 wrong.
John said
I said 2. I said I'll allow him 2.
Okay.
So if he gets this next question right, then he's back on my Christmas card list. So
I don't want a nervy last question.
Let's have number 14.
Players from Gibraltar compete in which Q School?
That's thrown him, Neil. That's
do you know how many darts players from Gibraltar?
I know of there's a few like Dylan Duo, Dyson Parody. They're the main 2. I don't recall many players from Gibraltar playing at this year's Q School. There may have been some.
But which Q School?
Isn't there a regular tournament that takes place in Gibraltar?
Gibraltar Open.
Yeah. Well, it's a 50-50 guess, isn't it?
I think you could take an educated guess, but okay. Oh, Neil, you might have him, yeah? I might be rid of him as a mate.
It's a good question, this one.
How much do you love me, Josh? That's the question.
Got to be careful that you don't get double bluffed here.
Just on a side note, Neil, for the next episode, I'm going to buy you a can of WD-40 for your chair, I think.
Why is it squeaky?
Making a squeaky noise.
Making a right old racket. Right, come on, Josh, thinking cap on.
I'm trying.
Which Q School? Can only be one of 2.
It can, but I'm tying myself in knots trying to work out which one it could be. European Q School, I don't know.
That is incorrect, Josh. It is UK.
Oh, I went against my gut.
It is UK. Neil, can you put some flesh on the bones for us?
No, it's just competitors from Gibraltar compete in the UK one. As do anyone from the UK, including the Republic of Ireland. I
should have got that one, really.
United Kingdom, Republic of Ireland and Gibraltar. Anyone born outside of those countries in Europe playing the European one, and then I believe anyone on any of the other continents outside of Europe can choose which one they play in.
Is Gibraltar part of the old empire? Is that why?
I think so, yeah.
Still part of the British Empire?
Yeah.
Don't listen. If I've got that wrong, don't text in. All right? I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about geography. That's just me.
There's definitely something to do with British
colonialism or something. Yeah.
In Gibraltar.
Okay, so we've had 14 questions, Josh. You've got 2 wrong so far.
Yeah.
I said if you got just 2 wrong, then our friendship would be repaired. You've got 1 question to go.
Yeah.
Okay, it's as simple as that. It's a 50-50 toss from here. You either get it right, and we hold hands and we skip off into the well,
socially distanced, of course.
Yeah, we skip off into the sunset together. Or if you get it wrong, that is the end of us as friends, and we go our separate ways. So, Neil, for the last time, please give us question number 15.
How much was the entrance fee for Q School 2021?
Oh, that's horrible.
Information readily available on the PDC website.
Well, Josh, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure knowing you.
Well, I know what it was. I know roughly what it is.
I've got my phone in my hand. I'm just going to my contacts list. Just typing in J and doing a search. I'm also going to block the Josh's Dartistry Twitter account from my Twitter. I'm going to unfollow the Josh's Dartistry page on Facebook. I am removing www.joshisdartistry.com from my bookmarks list on my Internet Explorer or my Safari. What else can I delete of Josh's?
Oh dear, this is
get rid of his
outrageous behaviour.
Get rid of his email. Any WhatsApp group that he's in with me, I'm now going to remove him from.
I might get this, you know. Don't give up hope.
Oh, I'll tell you where he is, Neil. He's on Instagram these days. Did you see him on Instagram out for a run the other day, Neil?
Yep.
Wearing his Calvin
Klein
hat.
I've narrowed it down. To, I think there's 3 choices.
What are they?
It's between 400 and 500. So it's whether it's it's a round figure. So it's whether it's 400, 450 or 500.
Neil, how do you remove someone from a Zoom conversation and block them? Do you know how to do that? I've never had to do that before.
What are you going to do with your Josh's Dartistry mug?
Oh, that's going in the bin. That's going down the tip tomorrow.
Right. I'm going to go for the middle one. I'm going to go 450.
Right. And can you tell me how that is split?
What do you mean split?
There are 2 components to the fee.
2 components to the fee? Does it say about the DRA? I think that you've got to pay a certain amount to the DRA.
What, like an admin fee or something?
Yeah, like some sort of sanctioned admin fee.
Okay, but you're going for 450 to enter Q School.
I think that's the total cost, yeah. And I don't know how much the fee is. It's maybe 50, I don't know. But I think it's 450, the figure.
We can be friends again! Hooray! Yes, Neil, £450 is the answer, yeah?
It is, and it's split. It's 450, of which £50 is the fee to the DRA. Well done.
Well, Josh, that means you got 13 out of 15, and you've avoided being crossed off my Christmas card list. I officially forgive you for
That's lovely. Thank you, John.
Omitting me from your fantasy cricket team. However, I will put the caveat down. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever don't ever publicly humiliate me like that on social media. Otherwise, that will for sure be the end of us. But yes, that represents an excellent return. Some tough questions in there.
Very tough.
13 out of 15. Josh, how do you feel you performed?
I think 13's about right. I was just completely lucky, I'll be honest. A fluke guess with the Canadian Open. It could have been anything. I should have got the UK. I kind of not tricked myself, but I went against my gut. I should have got the UK one, but I was lucky with the Canadian. So 13, I think, is a fair return, but tough questions.
Neil performed quite well there under pressure in the end.
Yeah, he did. There were some tough questions. I quite like the Q School questions because, the casual darts fan is Q School is not something that they're going to be paying too much attention to. So it was good to learn myself a little bit more about that. And he did pull it out the bag rather disappointingly. I think I played some mind games with him on Gibraltar. Said he had to be careful of the double bluff, and I think That probably
I've double bluffed myself.
Yeah, exactly. So no, he's done well again, and to pull out the 450 with the £50 DRA thing, I think it's just wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, well done, Josh. 13 out of 15. You and I remain friends, and that concludes this episode's Challenge Josh.
Challenge Josh.
Hi, this is John Lowe, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
I feel happy, won't you call me on the telephone? In the morning, won't you call me on the telephone?
Call the boys on 07739 738 329. That's 07739 738 329 and leave them a message.
This is Damon Heta, and you're listening to Josh's Dartistry.
Okay, it's time to get some news.
In the news.
Okay, let's have a look around and see what news stories have been floating around on social media this week. Josh, we touched on it right at the top of the show discussing Q School, but very sad to see Kevin Painter announce his retirement from the sport after missing out at Q School.
Yeah, Kevin's been one of the best players in the world for, the last 20 plus years now. Fantastic servant for the sport. Won a Players' Championship title, a major title, played one of the best world finals of all time against Phil Taylor, played in the Premier League. But it's been a tough few years for Kevin. He's missed out, I think, at 3 Q Schools now. And I think beforehand he'd hinted that he knew that if he didn't make it this year, he'd be hanging up his darts competitively. Still going to play the exhibition circuit, which will hopefully resume when the restrictions ease. Still might play a few open tournaments, but he said he's just not enjoying the game, or he's finding it too frustrating that he's just not performing, to the level he knows he can. So that's it for Kevin Painter in the PDC world. But yeah, what a great servant he's been for the sport. I'm sure you'll all agree.
Yeah, definitely, Neil. The artist, as he is affectionately known, hanging him up and retiring. We will miss him, won't we, Neil? I always found Kevin to be, whilst a legend of the sport and a fantastic darts player, he always had that steely stare. Those eyes, those piercing eyes that would look straight through you. And I always found him to be a bit scary on the stage, Neil.
Yeah, and to be honest, even for his opponent, I don't think he was an easy player to play. I remember a couple of interviews, I think it was with Phil Taylor, saying that he's a very difficult opponent. So yeah, there is that determination and that steely look. Had a very, very successful career, and let's hope he enjoys the next stage of his life. Who knows if he receives, if he gets the hunger back. Maybe we won't have seen the end of him. He's still only early to mid 50s, I think. So let's see how it develops for him. But wish him all the luck in the world.
Yeah, you never know. He might do a Barney. Josh, you're going to bring us some Kyle Anderson news, I believe.
Yeah, since we last recorded, I think just a week or so before Q School got underway, Kyle Anderson announced that he was going to relinquish his PDC Tour card and remain at home in Australia. Now, Kyle's been back in Australia since the pandemic began last March. He's had a really tough time. Even before that, he'd been struggling with homesickness. He had COVID last year. It's been a really difficult 18 months or so for him. And he has made the decision to give up his tour card. He said he wouldn't be playing this year, and he didn't want to jeopardise the chances of other players by keeping it when he wasn't going to be committing to the tour. So fair play to Kyle. He's a fantastic player, a great talent. He's still more than young enough to make a comeback. But I think it's the right decision for himself and his family. I think him and his partner are expecting another child soon. I think it's a sensible decision, but I hope to see Kyle back because he's a great talent and I think he's got a lot more to give the game.
Yeah, I think we've all enjoyed watching Kyle play darts, and as Josh says there, we do wish him all the best and hope to see him back soon, which I'm sure we will. Josh, news of a bit of a setback for Dimitri van den Berg.
Well, yeah, Dimitri, we've seen him over the last 6 months or so play with a knee brace on the stage. He had a bit of a freak accident at a theme park, I think, just after his World Match Play win. and he was trying to find the right time to have surgery. And because it was such an intensive schedule post-COVID, he wasn't able to find the time. But he's undergone knee surgery now. He is actually entered and he's meant to be playing in the Super Series. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares there, because there were concerns he might not even make the UK Open. But he seems to be making a speedy recovery from that surgery. But we'll see how it holds up. It's a busy few months for Dimitri, obviously with the Premier League to come in April, is his first full season in the Premier League. So I hope we see Dimitri fully fit and fully firing, because he's such an exciting talent. And I think if he is fully fit, I think he's got a real chance of making the playoffs this year. I really do.
Josh, we've obviously already spoken about Premier League for this year and the format and what it's going to look like, how it's going to take place. Rather unexpected for me, we had news about the Premier League 2022, no less.
Yeah, well, I suppose the fact that we haven't got fans in for the first half of the 2021 season, maybe the PDC are trying to provide some good news for the fans and showcase what's to come in 2022. So yeah, the schedule's out. The first night will be taking place on February the 3rd, 2022 in Cardiff. We'll have our regular visits to the likes of Berlin. We'll have one night in Rotterdam as opposed to two, which we've seen in the last few years. Also Dublin, Aberdeen, Glasgow, the usual sort of jaunts. We won't be seeing the playoffs taking place at London's O2 in 2022. Instead, they're going to be held in Newcastle on May the 26th in 2022. So a change of destination for the Premier League playoffs.
Neil, thoughts on that? It's obviously a big change in venue for the Premier League. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, having been at the O2 on 2 or 3 different occasions, I didn't like it as a venue for darts, to be honest. So personally, I'm in favour of the switch.
Okay, good. Well, that gives us something to look forward to next year. Let's move on to, let's be honest, the story that broke a few days ago and has had the darting world, well, I hesitate which phrase to use, but I'll probably just say up in arms, with regards to Wayne Warren having his BDO World Championship trophy seized following a police investigation, Josh. Now, obviously, we need to tread lightly here, but tell us what you know.
Well, the news broke following a Facebook post from Des Jacklin on Friday night, where he confirmed that the BDO World Championship trophy was back in his possession. He informed us all that he'd taken a 9-hour car journey down to South Wales to collect the trophy. Apparently it had been seized for some time now, but Des Jacklin's been insistent that the BDO World Trophy must be returned to his possession, which has been a topic of contention because the BDO went into liquidation last year. There doesn't seem to be a future for the BDO, although Des Jacklin insists the BDO is very much alive, he said on his Facebook post. But yeah, Wayne Warren, he's had a really tough time of it over the last 12 months or so, winning that title, finding out he had £23,000 in prize money rather than £100,000. Then the COVID struck and the exhibition circuit he was planning to compete on, that's just ground to a halt. Missed out at Q School, and now this is just the latest blow. So he's no longer in possession of the BDO World Championship trophy. And Des Jacklin, I think, has just probably alienated any remaining support he may have had with that move. And it's caused a lot of anger amongst not just darting fans, but players and pundits alike.
Neil, there's quite a lot to unpack in this story. But start me off with, I don't know, under lockdown conditions, taking a 9-hour car journey to go and pick up a trophy.
Well, it's not essential travel, is it, for a start? So it's not something that was needed urgently. So there's obviously an issue there. And then it's just a mess, to be honest, isn't it? I mean, Wayne has won his world title, and he's just going to remember it. He should be remembering it for the brilliant victory, and now all he's going to remember it for is for the farce that's happened since. Firstly with the money, the prize money, and now with the trophy. So very sad. As you say, no need to take a 9-hour car journey to go and pick it up. It's just another of a long line of, what can we say, interesting developments in the world of BDO darts.
Josh, the thing that struck me about this story was whether the rights or the wrongs of the trophy ownership and the outstanding prize money that Wayne Warren never received. If Des and Paula believe that the BDO trophy is their property and they're perfectly within their rights to claim it back, was there any need for the Facebook post and to sort of publicly address this and claim that, the BDO is still alive and kicking and we've got our trophy back. And for me, I just saw it as a little bit of unnecessary antagonisation that really could have been done behind closed doors.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, John. I think it would have caused anger and resentment even if it hadn't been publicly announced. I think if the news emerged that this development had taken place, but I think the fact that they were almost boasting and lording it over someone, like Wayne, who's had such a difficult period, I think that just added insult to injury and stoked the fire, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't handled very well. But I think we've seen over the last two years or so, I know the BDO's been in trouble for a lot longer than that, but the communication and the social media and in terms of the BDO, not only has it been almost non-existent at times, but it's been very badly handled. And I think there's a lack of, due diligence done in that respect. And, yeah, I think that's just stoked the fire and caused even more animosity. So it was subsequent. I think the Facebook post was actually subsequently deleted because they just got a string of messages, ridiculing and criticising their decisions. So I think it backfired on them. I think it made them look a little bit petty.
Neil, do you ever see a way back for the BDO with or without the Jacqueline's involvement?
Difficult to say. I think at various times since we've been recording this podcast, we thought it was the end, and then there seems to be periods where there's renewed hope and they sort things out and get some good television broadcasting done. But there's always hope. But the damage that's been done to in terms of PR over the last few years and again with this particular instance, it doesn't bode well.
No, it does leave rather a nasty taste in the mouth. Right then, that is your news.
In the news.
Okay, we are rapidly approaching the end of the show, but there's just time to look at some of your emails and tweets. This is Josh's Twitter chatter. Okay, you've been sending in your tweets at Josh's Dartistry. Thanks for getting in touch. We always like to answer your questions, as many as we can here on Josh's Twitter chatter. Let's have a look and see what's come through. First of all, Josh, there's a young man by the name of Deansy on Twitter. That's at Deansy, Deanzey. He's come through with a question. He sounds like a fine, upstanding young man, if you ask me.
Lovely bloke by all accounts.
Yeah. He's asked,
great cricketer too.
Don't you start. He asked, can you talk us through the exact moment that you heard Barney had won his tour card, please? Where were you? What were you doing? And did you scare the neighbours, Josh?
I didn't scare the neighbours. I scared myself. I was in the living room. Friend of the show, Raz from Sky, he'll be listening, I'm sure, to this. I was on tennis duty during the Australian Open. I was blogging the quarterfinal between Nadal and Tsitsipas, which was a fantastic game. Nadal lost from 2 sets up. So I was blogging that. So I had one eye on the darts when I could, but I couldn't really follow it intensely. I know you were doing updates, weren't you, John, on the WhatsApp group?
Yeah.
Which I was trying not to follow due to my nerves. But I knew he was 4-3 up and then 5-4 up. But then literally Nadal lost the match during that leg. So I couldn't watch the darts, having to get the blog updated. And it was about 5 minutes afterwards where I dared to look at my phone and I saw 48 WhatsApp messages. I thought, oh my goodness, he's gone out, hasn't he? I thought he's gone out. But I managed to look at Darts Connect, and when I found out, I did a little celebratory jig around the living room. Yes, so it was a nervy morning. That's all I'll say. Because when I found out it was Benito van der Pas, my heart sank a little bit because Barney'd won all his 7 games against him in the past, so he had a good record. But Benito's one of the most high-profile players, and he wouldn't be scared of playing Barney. And I thought it was just set up to be a bit of a glorious failure. But thankfully, he got the job done.
Neil, do you know what I first thought of when I heard Barney had qualified?
Music.
Yeah, that's right. I've been wanting to play this particular piece of music for quite a long time now. And now Barney's got his card back. I'm sure we can all look forward to listening to periods of je t'aime during future Josh's Dartistry podcast. So welcome back to Serge Gainsbourg, ladies and gentlemen, who wrote and recorded that. Right, let's move on from Barney. Although Barney does get a mention in this next question. Jordan Harrison, friend of the show, former co-host of the Joshes. We must get Jordan back on the show at some point. He asked, who do you see as the big movers in the order of merit this year? Ones to watch out for and ones who may struggle. And he's put in brackets, please avoid mentioning Barney.
Yep, I told him I'll answer the question without mentioning you-know-who. So I don't like really to pick out those who I think will struggle. But I must admit, I'm a little bit concerned for the form of Rob Cross. He's had a tough 12 months, not only on the board, but away from the hockey. He's defending a lot of money this year because it's the rolling 2-year order of merit. 2 years ago, he got to the UK Open final. He won the World Match Play and he won the European Championship. So that's over £300,000 in prize money alone. So we're looking at, he's number 4 in the world now. We're looking at the potential, if he has early exits in those, potentially dropping out the world's top 20. So he's more than capable, Rob, of turning it around and maintaining his place in the world's elite. But if he doesn't regain that form that he showed during his world title win and in the early stages of 2019, I am concerned for him. In terms of the big movers up the rankings, one player I'm looking forward to seeing more of this year is Ryan Searle. Every time I see him not only on the Pro Tour, but also on the big stage, he impresses. He did well at the World Championship, almost got to the quarters, but lost out to Stephen Bunting, who we know had a great run. I think out of the new tour card holders, Martin Schindler, he showed signs of real form towards the back end of last year, and at Q School, he was one of the outstanding players. I think he could have a real rise up the order of merit. And I'm also going to pick out... Who am I going to pick out? I'm just looking down the order of merit now. I think Mervyn King is 20th in the world. I think if he carries on his form, I think we could see Merv push towards certainly the world's top 16, maybe even perhaps the world's top 12 or so. So they're the three I'm going to pick out.
Neil, I've mentioned on the show before your comments on Rob Cross. When Rob won his first world title, a lot of people were using the term one-hit wonder, and you were very quick to defend Rob and say, look, he might not win the Worlds again, but he's certainly still a very, very good player. But as Josh mentions there, with a lot of money still to defend and some early exits this year, if that were to be the case, he would very, very quickly find himself in a bit of trouble, Neil.
He could do, and I think his slump has probably gone on for long enough now to think that it may be that something that's going to continue. But this is a very good darts player who's won not only the World Championship, he's won the World Match Play and the European Championship. He's made finals, I think, at the Premier League and the UK Open.
Yeah.
So I think one hit wonder is unfair.
Yeah.
But he is under pressure to defend all that money, and that he may find it difficult. So for me, I'm sure we will see Rob Cross come back to form. Whether it will be quick enough this season, I'm not so sure.
I just want to combine a couple of questions here. Shout out to Tom Rao on Twitter. He asked, what new tour card holder will do the best this year? Now, Josh, you've already mentioned Martin Schindler. So that might have answered Tom's question. So thanks for getting in touch, Tom. And Juanita McDade, friend of the show, who do you think will improve on their rankings from players 33 to 64 spots to watch out for? So any other potential names that you're going to be keeping an eye on there, Josh, for us?
There's a number. It's so congested between those spots 33 to 64. One good tournament on TV can be the difference between, being on the verge of the top 64 to suddenly breaking into the world's top 32. We saw that with Dirk van Duijvenbode last year. There's a few I've got my eye on. It's a big year for Jelle Klassen. He played well last year without any reward.
Currently 56.
Yeah, he played really well on the Pro Tour in last period. Lost a lot of games, 6-5, which can happen, just that lack of cutting edge. But I think he's got a point to prove, Jelle. And I think if he can play like he did last year, he's got every chance of rising up those rankings. I've mentioned Ryan Searle, he's 37th. I fully expect to see Ryan in the world's top 32 by the end of 2021. I think he's playing ever so well. Probably the best form of his career right now.
Ryan Joyce?
Yeah, really solid player, Ryan Joyce. Really solid. Had a very good World Grand Prix. Played well at the Grand Slam. I think that's a good shout, Neil. Damon Heta as well. It's an obvious one. Damon is up to 52nd in the world. He won his tour card last year at Q School, so he's got nothing to defend in terms of prize money this year, so it's a free hit for Damon. He's not going to drop down the rank, and it's going to be an upward trajectory for him. So he's 52nd right now. I think he's about $100,000 off, maybe just a little bit less, getting into the world's top 32, which is more than possible with a couple of good runs on TV. So yeah, Damon Heta's, I think, could be the biggest mover from 33 to 64.
Okay, well, there's some names for you. Let's move on. Ali Badger on Twitter has been in touch. Josh, we've already touched on this slightly a little bit earlier on, but let's carry on the conversation. Ali says, can Scotty Mitchell replicate Glen Durrant's success and become the next former Lakeside champion to become a household PDC name? Now, obviously, getting your tour card is one thing, but becoming a household PDC player is quite another, Josh.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Scott's more than capable of doing that. We've seen him at, winning his BDO World Championship title. Not just that, though, but also his performance over the last decade or so. He's been really consistent on the BDO circuit. He's acquitted himself very well when he's played in the PDC. I personally don't see Scott having any issues with retaining his PDC tour card. I think he'll be comfortably in the world's top 64 by the end of 2022. I see Scott as establishing himself in the world's top 32 as well. I think he's more than good enough to do that. Whether he can have the success that Glenn has had in terms of winning the Premier League, regularly reaching the latter stages of major TV events, I'm not too sure. If you're going to nail my colours to the mast, I'd say he'll be top 32. Not quite sure yet whether he's got the gears to get to the world's top 16 and win major PDC events. But I hope he proves me wrong in that respect. His finishing at Q School was magnificent, over 50% on the doubles, which takes some doing over that length of play. I'm just not quite sure he's got the A game to compete with the world's best, but time will tell. And I think playing in the PDC will only improve him as a player.
Yeah, Neil, perhaps for Scotty this year will be a learning curve for Scotty this year and give him 12 months worth of experience on the tour to possibly go on next year, kick on and climb the rankings.
Yeah, I think as Josh said, he will. He'll be fine. He'll compete well and probably get himself into the top 64, if not the top 32. I think what's really, really key sometimes is the start. And I think Glen Durrant really hit the ground running. Straight away in the Pro Tour events. He was up there. I think he won one. And that kind of, any nerves that he might have had or any kind of doubts that he might have had, I think that kind of settled those. And he was able to use that as a springboard for the success that followed. So I don't think Scott will quite hit the same heights as what Glenn has, but I do expect him to become an accomplished PDC darts player.
Okay, good. Let's move on. Woody Rudd, again, a friend of the show. Good to hear from you, Woody, as always. He says, hi, lads. Great show as always. Thank you very much, Woody. Do you think the PDC will or should keep the summer/autumn series of player championships played over consecutive days? I think it's great and better than them spread them out over a year. Fans can get more involved with it. Cheers. Josh, your thoughts on that?
I agree with Woody there, John. Yeah, I'm a real fan of the summer series, super series, whatever, the intensive, 4 Pro Tours in 4 days. I think logistically it makes more sense than having it spread out over, say, 15 weekends of the year. There's so many events to cram in on the PDC schedule now with all the major tournaments, the European Tour, the World Series. I think this makes a lot more sense, and it will conjure up some difficulties because there are players on the PDC circuit who are not full-time professionals. Even Johnny Clayton, for example, works full-time as a plasterer. So it can create difficulties playing midweek for some players. But on the whole, the majority, I would say, or at least over half, are full-time professionals. It's a professional circuit. So I think it is easy to get more involved. I also think it's quite good, the incentive they have, because if you top the order of merits, for example, at the Summer Series, the Autumn Series and the Winter Series, whoever topped the order of merit would get a Grand Slam qualification spot. So there was some incentive in terms of consistency over the 4 days. And I'm not sure yet whether that's going to continue in 2021. The PDC haven't confirmed the rules in terms of whether there'll be a spot for the winner of the Order of Merit in the Super Series. But it's something I'd like to see continue. And I think they will do because the response has been really positive across the darting community.
Josh, did you see the conversation taking place over the last few days on Twitter regarding some of the tour card winners who have stated that they won't be taking part in certain events, and it led to quite a heated debate from some darting commentators regarding the use of the tour cards. Where do you sit with that?
I mean, it's all about opinions, isn't it? I see it in certain respects. I'm not going to name names in terms of players, but I think there's 7 tour card holders who are missing out on the Super Series. 5 of those, I think, had tour cards before this year. Now, some of those have missed a large chunk of events. I know we're in a global pandemic, but there are players who are going to be under major threat of losing their tour cards. So I understand why people are a little bit sceptical about, why bother entering if entering Q School if you're not going to commit to the tour. But we are living in unprecedented circumstances. And I think there's only 2 tour card holders missing from the Super Series that progressed at Q School. And we have to admit, Q School happened, a week ago, 10 days ago? Mm. And logistically, a lot of these people are going to be having jobs because they're not professional players prior to going to Q School. Obviously, Raymond van Barneveld, Martin Schindler, a few of the bigger names are full-time players. But a lot of the players have jobs. They have family commitments. We have travel issues in terms of getting overseas to, quarantine, everything. There's so many logistical difficulties for these players. And I don't think they should be criticised because who knows what's going on behind closed doors and any family circumstances. I think if we look 4 or 5 months later down the line and we've got players who've not competed in any events, then I think people can ask questions and question the merits of them entering Q School. But I think we have to be appreciative and understanding of the circumstances we're living in. And I'm not going to criticise any players for missing a couple of events at very short notice.
Yeah, no, it's difficult, isn't it? Josh obviously saying there we don't know what goes on behind closed doors on people's personal situations. I can understand some darting commentators who've come out and said, well, you know the schedule before you enter and you know what you're opening yourself up for. And if it's not for you, then you shouldn't be. I kind of get both sides of the coin. Very difficult to make a judgment and come down on it on either side of the argument. I do take both into account, but yeah, it is difficult, Neil, isn't it? I mean, I look at players who might be new on the scene, new with their tour card, and to ask them to give up their job and travel and enter a tournament that they could possibly get knocked out in the first round, no money, and ask them to sort of quit their day job for that. I don't know how I sit with that, Neil. What do you reckon?
It's a difficult one, I think, especially with the pandemic and kind of the last 15, 16 months that we've all experienced. So, as you say, you don't really know what people's personal situations are. You don't know. There's players that have got jobs. Are they going to have to give up their jobs to compete? People have got to protect their livelihoods, and if their job is outside darts, it's understandable that they might miss tournaments. So, very difficult to comment on. Even more difficult based on the fact that we're in this global pandemic. So, reserving judgment, I think, as to how things move going forward.
Okay, Josh, that's all the questions we had come through on Twitter. Have you got any more for us?
No, that's all for this week, John.
Okay, that was Josh's Twitter chatter. Okay, well, that brings us nicely to the end of the show, the end of episode 27 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. And Josh, lots for us to look forward to. Not just tournaments and plenty of arrows being thrown on stages and televisions around the country, but also some light at the end of the tunnel for all of us, both in a sort of looking ahead generally to our friends and family and the end of lockdown and the pandemic. But lots to look forward to with regards to the darting world opening up again, possibly the introduction of crowds and a few bits and pieces like that. Plenty of positives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all needed a little bit of positivity, didn't we, John? It's been a really tough few months for everybody. So we have got this light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, we've still got to be vigilant, and we hope everything goes as planned. And the PDC deserve immense credit for being able to host all these tournaments seamlessly and still provide players with the opportunity to earn their living. So huge credit to the PDC. The events have still been really entertaining. All the major tournaments have still been great. Plenty of drama, plenty of high quality darts, but we do miss the fans and the crowds, and it'd be fantastic to get them back. Maybe the World Match Play in July. Maybe that could be the first major event to have fans back at the Winter Gardens, and that's always one of the highlights of the calendar. So something to look forward to there, hopefully.
Neil, my final question to you this evening is, are you and I going to get to spend our yearly late December jaunt together as we take on Ali Pally for a night out at the Worlds? Is that going to happen this year?
I would certainly hope so. But I think the last year, 15, 16 months has taught me to not take things for granted like that. So we'll have to see. Let's hope so. but let's see where we are come there. Hopefully, the world and people's health situation will be in a far better place than it has been.
If that does happen, Neil, no doubt you and I will have to pay for our tickets while Josh is backstage enjoying the VIP treatment in hospitality.
Yeah, trying to get Barney's autograph.
Okay, ladies and gents, that does conclude episode 27 of the Josh's Dartistry podcast. Thanks for downloading the show. Thanks for listening in. It's always much appreciated. If you enjoy the show, all we ask is that you spread the word. Tell a friend, tell a darting fan about our work, and see if they want to check us out. Welcome one, welcome all. And thanks for joining us. Josh, thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you, John. Always a pleasure, mate.
Neil, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time on the Josh's Dartistry podcast.
Josh's Dartistry.